Finding beauty in a world of ugliness. My grandfather was a pastor and he had a very famous sermon that many called the lunchbox sermon. And this sermon had many themes that I think are very applicable to us today. It all leads into this idea that scars are beautiful and a necessary part of life. So I'm going to share with you ideas from this sermon as well as my own takes and ideas from it. But when he spoke about his dad named Reinhardt. Now Reinhardt had this lunchbox, and it was a metal lunchbox that he just found on the side of the road. And already, this is when our first lesson comes into play, and we have to keep this in mind when we explore the later themes. This lunchbox that Reinhardt had just found, that he took with him every day to work, is just a lunchbox. The lunchbox cannot make itself full, for by itself it's just a metal lunchbox. It needs something outside of itself to come in and make it full. A lunchbox needs a sandwich, chips, fruit, things that it cannot provide for itself are necessary for the lunchbox to feel purpose and fullness. This is something I think is very applicable to us today, but something we often try to fight. Nowadays, it seems we're constantly surrounded by this self-help or self-improvement, get-quick guide, and often it's trying to get better just on your own, just with what you have within yourself. And I think the danger of what is being preached today is going outside of yourself, getting help in order to better yourself is now seen as a negative thing. What we learned from this lunchbox early on in the story is that it cannot help itself. It cannot make itself full. It needs something else in order to make itself full, and that's exactly what we have to do. Whether that's relying on God, whether that's relying on relationships, hobbies, whatever it may be, we need something outside of ourselves that we can run to and lean on in order to make ourselves full. Now, there are good things to run to, and there are obviously bad things to run to. This is the difference between swimming and just simply keeping our head above water. Exercising, eating right, growing your relationships, getting closer to God, your spiritual life, these are all things that are going to help you swim. Now, there are other things that just simply help us survive, keep our head above water. In my opinion, this depends heavily on the individual, and you're going to have to do some self-reflecting in order to figure out if you're swimming or just surviving. Now, these are things that are short term, just to make sure we get through the day, the night, anything to make sure we see that next day. But there's no long-term growth here. This is just simply a fallback plan that is not really making us full. So always reach outside of yourself. Never fully lean on yourself because you are guaranteed to crumble. Now this is where the story shifts. One day Reinhardt was going to work, backed his car up right over the lunchbox and flattened it. This once pristine metal lunchbox that he just found was now completely flat and useless. In the ugliness that had become of this lunchbox, Reinhardt refused to get a new one and was dead set on restoring this one. So he banged and banged and banged away at this thing until it loosely resembled its original shape. But now it was all folded over and cracked and nothing like the original. It had all of these scars now. It was back to its original purpose, but the scars were very prevalent. His wife bought him a new lunchbox, but it stayed hidden away in a cupboard because it didn't have a story, it didn't have character, and it didn't have scars like the one that has been with Reinhardt all this time. His original lunchbox was found on the side of the street, now run over, beaten back into shape, scarred and bruised all over, and this is what gave it character, this is what gave it a story, and this is what gave it meaning, and this is what pertains to us as humans. We all go through our own battles, very different for each individual, but we all go through them. And we never come out clean. They always leave some sort of scarring. And it may not be visible, but emotionally, it's there. We're now coming up to my favorite part of my grandfather's sermon, when he goes into his own battles that he went through, and what became of that. My grandfather was epileptic, which meant he had seizures constantly. My grandfather was very angry because of this epilepsy, because it inhibited him from doing what he wanted to do. Because of this, he ran to the pool halls pretty much every night, except one night was very, very different. One night at the pool hall, he had a seizure. He collapsed, hit his head on the table, and knocked his 2 front teeth out. Clearly unable to get himself home, he called Reinhardt to come and pick him up. And the entire way home, he was expecting the lessons to come out. For Reinhardt to yell at him, to lash out at him, to tell him what he had done wrong. And yet, the only thing Reinhardt said to my grandfather was, "Are you okay?" My grandfather only got grace in this moment, and I guarantee you it's because Reinhardt went through his own battles had his own scarring and was able to sympathize with my grandfather. My point here is that only the broken can help the broken. So never try to hide away your brokenness. We are all going to go through our own battles that lead to us being a little bit broken. For my grandfather, it was epilepsy, going through that time. But for others, it could be depression, addiction, self-harm, whatever it may be, it's gonna leave us scarred. But the best person to help someone going through addiction is someone that overcame addiction. Someone that hasn't been through that, someone that doesn't have those scars, can't help the one that is currently getting scarred. These scars are not only necessary for human life, but they are such a blessing to you and the people around you, and you may not even know that. But as Reinhardt's metal lunchbox was left flattened in all of its ugliness, beauty came out of it in the lessons that were learned. So as you struggle, do not lean on yourself. Go outside of yourself for that help in order to fill yourself up. I've learned this in a very difficult way, but leaning on yourself does not work and it just postpones healing. But understand, if you are left empty, you can fill yourself with anything. And then once you are full, you reflect on that time of being scarred in order to help the people being scarred. Because the broken can only help the broken. But only once we start to understand the broken, the scarred, and the darker parts of life is when we can learn to turn ugliness into beauty.